here with Arianna McCleod. She's a student basketball player for the TCNJ women's team. And I was going to ask her a couple questions today. Okay. So that's done. So, I know right now, like, you're out because of your leg. And, like, so they did an article on you in TCNJ magazine, which, like, Professor Weber actually has up on her corkboard in her office. Like, could you maybe talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the beginning of last season was a little rough. I didn't play the first game at all. Not because I was injured, just because, like, the coach didn't feel like I could contribute to that game. So my confidence was a little bit down, and we ended up losing that game. So I think she kind of went in and, like, thought about it and, like, who didn't play, like, who could have made a difference. So next game, around, like, the middle of the second quarter, she put me in, and I kind of made a little bit of a contribution, and I think I proved to myself that I could be a contributor on the team, scoring and defensively, and my coach kind of figured that out too. So that kind of set me up for that interview. He kind of emailed me, was like, hey, I know you had a really good game, and we want to talk about, like, how you came to TCNJ, and we set up a Zoom interview, and we talked about, like, how I got here, what led me into sports, and then we did a photo shoot, and that's where that article
It's a pretty great photo.
Yeah, I was really happy with it. It took forever, but it was fun.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I bet. So the guy who interviewed you, was he a student, or he worked for, like, the TCNJ magazine?
He worked for the TCNJ magazine.
Okay, so like a real adult.
Yes.
Okay, did he take the picture too?
No, it was this guy and this woman. They have, like, accents, but they're really cool. They used a ladder. Like, we went to the courts outside, and it was, like, the sun was setting, so it was a really cool photo.
It's a really cool photo, yeah. I hope you framed it. Or, like, you have, like,
I have
a
the
good
magazine.
copy.
My mom has it. But, yeah, he was, like, moving the ladder, like, every 5 takes to, like, try to get the lighting just right, and it actually came out really good, so I was really happy about that.
Do you think that they, like, interviewed you, like, because, like, you're on the women's team, or do you think maybe, like, that didn't play into it, or?
I was surprised that they chose me, just because, like, that was really, like, the one game where I kind of, like, popped off in a sense, and, like, the rest I scored, but it wasn't, like, a crazy amount, and we have other it was, like, kind of like, they told me it was kind of more of, like, a freshman issue for that one. So I think they wanted, like, to see, like, the newcomers who was coming up and what's going on. But I think that, like, how I got here is for athletes. I know Professor Weber showed us one, and it was a soccer player. And I don't know if that was the most recent one, but so far I think it's all just, like, sports. And I don't know why they chose me per se, but yeah, I was chosen.
So since you're a sophomore, so, like, you might not get as much playtime, but do you think, like, have you, like, noticed any differences, like, with maybe any of, like, the male, like, players that you're friends with who are on other teams?
I think our team is very large. We have about 17 players.
Oh, wow, so you have, like,
5
enough for what, like, 14?
Yeah, there's 5 people there's 10 altogether, 5 from one team from another. So, like, there's only 5 from our team playing at once. So, like, the playing time, obviously, unless you're doing, like, extremely well, you're not going to play the whole game. So the playing time is, like, even if you're doing good, it's kind of like there's a point where you're just going to come out of the game just because, like, she's trying to get other people into the game. And I think, like, the men's team is a little different. They don't have as many players, and I think he does try to play everyone as much as he can. But I do think the competition's a little different. So, like, our team, she might not go deep into the bench for, like, one game, but for, like, maybe, say, like, Rutgers Camden is one of the teams that's not the strongest in our conference. So that might be an opportunity for, you know, the bench players to get in. And so that's kind of how the playing time works in our team.
Do you think there's, like, I don't know, like, how much time you spend with, like, any of the boys' teams, like, even if it's not a basketball team, but, like, do you think, like, the atmosphere, like, is a little bit different, like, between, like, the guys than it is with the other girls on the team?
I think the atmosphere-wise, like, when we hang out, when we talk about, like, our team and, like, what's going on, I think their coach is a lot more, I would say, like, chill. I mean, they win games and, you know, they're very intense, but I do think their practices tend to be less conditioning running-wise and more, like, in the drills, where, like, ours is, like, okay, you missed 5 layups, you're going to run a 16, which is, like, touching the baseline 16 times in a certain amount of time. So I do think our coach is a little more intense, in that way, where it's like, if you make a mistake, like, you're going to you're going to be punished for it in a sense. And I think theirs is a little more chill, like, okay, you make a mistake, get it back. And so when we hang out, I feel like when we talk about that, it's a lot different. We're like, we want to go to your practice. Like, we should switch coaches for a day and see how you guys, like, survive. Because I do think our practice is a lot more intense.
That's, like, a lot.
Yeah, it definitely is a lot of running.
You must be in, such good shape during the
season. But after, like, the first month, I would say, like, preseason, once you start getting into games, then it's, like, less running outside of drills. So, like, she's not going to make you do, like, pressure foul shots where you, like, if you miss, like, you have to run down and back. It's more of like, okay, we're going to do, like, a scrimmage, and that's your conditioning for the day. So it's a lot less running.
But yeah, that's a lot. Do you notice, like, any, like, differences, like, maybe, like, any of, like, the athletic staff, or, like, when you guys, like, maybe watch the games, like, is, like, the vibe, like, a little bit different, for the girls' team?
I will say there's a couple things that kind of sucks. Like, when we have practice first, sometimes the water is not out. Like, they give us, like a Gatorade, like, gallon jug thing, and they fill up water, and they fill it, and it's supposed to be there when we start practice. So, like, if you want water, we just go over there, fill our Gatorade bottles up, and, you know, that's that. And then sometimes, like, it's not there and I notice that when we're the first practice, a lot of times, like, if there's someone injured, like, they run up to the trainer's office and say, like, hey, the water's not there for the practice. I've never noticed that when we're the second practice. If we go after the boys, like, the water is always there. And then we also have the dance team, which I know, like, 2 games is a lot. And when we go, like, when we have, like, double headers, which is usually on Saturday, they come, like, halfway to our game and then stay for the full men's. And, like, sometimes, like, maybe you could alternate a little bit, where, like, we obviously, I feel like the way that men and women play are a lot different, like, the pace. I think a lot of people find the men's games more exciting, so the crowd usually comes for the men's games. So sometimes I'm like, well, maybe, like, the dance team or the cheer team can come for our games if we don't have, like, a lot of, you know, students coming to watch us. Those are the kind of little things that I notice.
I was reading your article because I was Google stalking you before the interview. You said that, like, the women's games are a lot more fast-paced, or at least how, like, your team plays. So, like, I find that surprising that, like... Yeah,
I think... There's some teams and there's some games where it is fast and it can turn into, like, a track meet, but you don't see, like, us, like, going for a fast break and dunking it. So I don't think we have that, like, I don't want to say entertainment factor, because I do think, like, our game's entertaining in a different way. Like, I think we run more plays all the way through. It's not as fast as, like, people are just, like, the boys are dunking, and obviously we can't compete with that. But so I do think, in a way, like, men's games are faster, that and they have longer legs, you know, they're a little more muscular. So I understand, like, why people would want to go that, but also, like, the same way, like, our games are just as entertaining. Like, we have close scores, like, nail biters. Our last game this weekend was an overtime win. Like, I find that very, like, fun to watch. So I don't, sometimes I'm just like, why is there that separation? I really don't know.
I was talking, we did do a project on business with, the business manager. Like, honestly, she really wasn't that interesting. Sorry, but she was saying that the women's sports, like, they're really not, like, the money makers. Like, they don't bring in as much money. And then when I was going through the like, the budget, actually the women's coaches, like, regardless if the coach themselves is a male or a female, they actually make way less money.
Yes, and I think that goes with, like, the overall gender wage gap in America.
Yeah.
And I think when you argue that, a lot of people are like, well, like, if you look on TV, like, the NBA games are bringing in more money for networks than WNBA. But then it's like, the WNBA games are not advertised like the NBA games are. Like, they have, like, their schedules are, like, weird times, like, throughout the day. Like, men's is, like, prime time, like, 7, 8 o'clock at night. Women's games are, like, scheduled for, like, 2 in the afternoon. Like, people have work, they're not going to be able to watch the game. So I do think, like, there's certain factors that lead into that. So when people say, like, oh, like, well, if you look at the views, they shouldn't be getting paid as much because they're not bringing a lot of views. It's like, well, the circumstances are, like, they aren't bringing a lot of views because the times, and there's just certain factors that go into it that I think people don't
they don't
take into account.
They don't give them the same promotion.
Yeah, no, definitely not. And I think that just leaves us a little at a disadvantage. So,
do you ever see anything like that, like, at school? Like, I'm sure it's not to the same degree, but Do you notice anything like that?
I think our school does do a very good job with that. I would say we have a grad assistant, and she minored in marketing when she was undergrad. So she does a lot of our promotional stuff. Like we have a TikTok account that she runs, an Instagram that she runs, a Twitter. So she's always posting content, whether it's a TikTok. We had a couple people study abroad, so she had them like do videos. Like she makes graphics for our games, our scheduling. So I do think she helps bring in viewers that wouldn't necessarily be brought in by like TCNJ athletics, and they make a lot of posts too. So I do think this school does a really good job at equal opportunity like viewership, but I do think like D1 schools aren't
not as fair.
like ESPN, like the last year was like the first time like one of the women's like national championship was televised on like ABC. Like those games should be televised regardless. Like 2021, that shouldn't be the first time that happened.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So that's where it's kind of like annoying and frustrating. Like we're making all this headway, like especially on the D1 aspect, like a lot of the top performers like are in groups and trying to figure out like how we can get the viewership up, how we can get the pay up. Now they have like NIL deals, and it's just a little frustrating when things don't always work out that way, because like we're fighting for equal opportunity, but we're not always seeing the results. I mean, I'm sure it's going to take time, but like it's still just a little frustrating.
Yeah, they say it's equal, but they don't really put in that equal effort.
Yeah, exactly.
I was in the same meeting with the business manager. She said that some of the players on the boys basketball team were actually like in discussions about NILs. Do you know if anybody on the girls team?
We have not discussed that. I don't know how that would work, honestly. I would be interested to sit in on a meeting, and hopefully they would contact us and see if we were interested before like just letting the men's team do it, just because I'm sure it'd be like a shocker if all of a sudden like the men's team was getting paid and we weren't, and we're like, how did that happen? We're pretty close with the men's team, so I'd hope that they'd also talk to us before like anything was set in stone. Plus, like D3, like we're not getting paid for this.
It's not like big bucks.
Yeah, like we're not getting our school paid for. We're basically regular students who are just like playing a sport that they love. But it does get tiring. We're on the same schedule as the D1 athletes. We don't travel as much. We don't, ride planes, that kind of stuff. But we do have away games. It's 5 months out of the year. It's same as D1. I mean, we get summers off, which is nice, but we don't get paid to do this. So I think it would be nice to be in discussion with that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was like an official thing or anything, but I had asked because the football team actually has their own social media manager. Like that's just her job. Like I interviewed her, so like it's kind of a bummer that they don't have that for any of the women's teams.
I would hope that they would discuss that. I think we do have like ambassadors on our team. I think each team kind of has like a spokesperson. So I'd hope that they'd reach out and say like, hey, like, this is in the works. We're discussing it with a couple of the male teams here, and we want to see what some of the women's teams thinks. That way, like equal opportunity, equal effort. I think it's the effort that counts the most.
That's what I've been noticing.
Because you can't control like what people decide to watch, but you can control like how you market it to them. So as long as the effort's there, I think that's a big step in the right direction.
I've been noticing that, but like you kind of can control what people watch though. I mean, like there's so much coverage and so much promotion for the male teams, and like the football team, like I mean there's no like girls equivalent to that they're like really like pushing for, which like I think that kind of stinks. Because I think girls sports is actually kind of more fun.
I do believe that too, and it's just hard again, like the effort is just not always there, and like we're smart, like we see it, we know what's going on when all these men's games are getting advertised and we're not, and we're just kind of just like, I mean, I don't want to say, like, we're used to it in a way, and it sucks that we are, because it shouldn't be this way, so I'm hoping for a change at some point, very soon.
Yeah, me too. This is kind of a silly question, but, so, like, it probably doesn't apply to you guys so much as basketball players, but, like, the girls' uniforms, like, compared to the boys, like, do you notice that you guys get better stuff, or maybe they get better stuff, or...
I think the uniforms are definitely pretty equal. It's not like, I guess, like track, like shorts as opposed to like kind of like a bikini bottom for the girls. Like for us, like we actually get to design our own uniforms.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
We got to design it this year, So, like, again, her name's Olivia Willem. She's our graduate assistant. She kind of, like, was at the head of that. So she let a couple of our players design the uniforms that we have this year. Like, we bought, she calls herself the gear fairy, which is really fun, which is true. Like, she has all the gear and orders everything, designs things. I'm not sure how the men's team works. I don't think that they get it from the school. I think most of the stuff, like, we get from fundraising, and then I do think we get, like, stipends from the school. I'm not exactly sure, but I think overall it's pretty fair. So, yeah. Thanks.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay, so is there anything, like, that, like, you think I missed, or, like, anything that you think is, like, really important going on, like, in college sports, like, gender-wise?
I would say the mental health aspect of it all. In the spring, last spring, there was a few, like, suicides that happened in the D1 that were talked about, that were in D1 aspect, and, you know, they're the ones that are getting paid. They're the ones that are having their schooling paid for. So it's kind of like, what's going on with the D3? You never really hear about that. And I do think, like, men, the stigma just overall with mental health in men is very negative. Like, oh, they should be tough, like, they shouldn't cry, that kind of stuff. So I do think that stigma needs to disappear, so that men can, in general, but especially in sports, can talk about, you know, what's going on, how they're feeling. But just overall, like, women's and men's sports, I think there needs to be a bigger talk about mental health. Like, we're doing this for 5 months. We're in season 5 months.
Yeah, and then you have the pressure of regular school, and then I bet some people have jobs, too.
Yeah, exactly. We have 5 months, October through March, February, March. Then off season, where we're expected to, you know, get in the gym and play with we have, like, lift and open gym where we kind of play, like, scrimmages. We're expected to do that until the end of the spring semester. Then in the summer, we're expected to work out on our own, so that when the fall comes, like, after fall break, like, we start, actually, like, after we move in, like, a week after, we start working out again. And that's, like, so it's just, like, a constant cycle with, like, really no break. Obviously, D3 is a little bit better, where she's not monitoring you. You don't have to come to campus for a month or two out of the summer and work with the team like D1 athletes do. So I do think we get a little break, but it's what's expected of us doesn't really give us that break. You know, like, you take a week off for vacation, that's fine, but then you're expected, you know, they give us, like, lift workouts and things to practice while we're at home. Yeah, so it's very, like, it's just a constant cycle of trying to get better. You don't really get that long break that
I do.
Yeah, exactly. And then, like, we're regular students too. We have finals, we have exams. Some of our finals we have to work around our traveling. So, like, we're going to Puerto Rico this winter. Yeah, so we're leaving December 17th. That's right at the end of final season. So some of the girls have to, like, talk to their professors to get things moved around, and so that adds a little more stress, especially if,
Are you the student that has to take a final for Professor Weber?
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
She was like, I have to find a quiet place for them to take it when I went to go get the mics.
I'm not sure. I actually have to ask her when I finally
might be.
Maybe, who knows? But yeah, that's stressful because, like, we have 4 nursing majors, and a lot of their stuff
oh my gosh, I bet they're so busy.
So stressed, and a lot of their stuff is in person. Like, my roommates are nursing majors. They're on our team, so they have head to toe. You have to go in and actually, like, you know, label things or whatever. So, you know, they have to, if that gets moved up, then they have less time to study. And then we're also starting our conference play, so we have to focus on the teams, because if we don't do good, then we don't make the playoffs, and then we can't, like, win a championship. So it's, like, all this pressure, and we don't really. This year we're getting, like, a sports psychologist apparently, which I think will help.
Yeah.
But again,
like, who knows who's even going to go to that.
Is it too late? Like, is the stigma so bad that people aren't going to take the time to talk to someone who would understand what they're going through? Because they might think, like, oh, well, I'm a little depressed because, you know, it's winter break and we're here and everyone else is at home with their friends, but I should tough it out because, you know, I'm an athlete. As opposed to, like, oh, well, I'm not feeling so good about how I'm playing, or being here, I miss my family, maybe I should talk to someone.
think a lot of people feel like that just in general.
Yeah, so I
It's
really
probably
do
even
think
harder as an athlete.
the mental health aspect does need to be talked about and somehow fixed in a sense.
Cool. Well, thank you so much
Yeah.
for doing this. It's like so helpful.
Welcome back to our next episode. Today I'm here with Jack Ellis of the TCNJ hockey team. Thanks for being with us here, Jack.
Anytime.
All right, so I know you're a busy man, busy sport, and I know you're actually recovering from an injury, so I'll just get right to the point.
Sounds good.
How do you think sports have impacted your life so far?
Well, I'm on the ice 5 or 6 times a week, so at least with college, it definitely plays a big part in my life. I have to like pick classes when I don't have hockey and try to study and get enough sleep and stuff. My life kind of revolves around it, so I'd definitely say it plays a big part.
So sounds like sports are a big part in your life. What made you choose hockey out of all the options?
My dad played D1 hockey and played pro in Europe, and diehard Flyers fan, so it's always been hockey for me. Played a little lacrosse when I was a kid, like soccer, but hockey and golf are my main sports.
Oh, so are you a Flyers fan as well?
I am.
All right. Have you learned any like key life lessons from playing sports and or watching?
Hockey has definitely taught me how to be a better person, how to build relationships, and how to always do the right thing and have good character and have respect for my coaches and teammates and opposing teams. Definitely has helped build my overall character as a person, I would say.
Great answer. So I know you're on our men's hockey team. Do you know if we have a women's hockey team at our school?
I do not believe we do.
Do you think that this is a problem for our school?
I don't know if it's a problem. When I transferred here this year, and at my old school, Towson, we had a women's team, but it was a much bigger school. So I think that it's honestly just because we're not as big of a school that we don't have a women's team.
All right. So have you ever watched professional hockey? I know you said you're a Flyers fan, obviously, but how often do you think you watch?
Every day, I would say I'm watching, trying to get as much of the games on as I can that play that day, whether it's before or after practice or class or anything, or just the highlights.
When you watch, have you ever watched women's hockey or is it strictly male?
My best friend from home, his sister plays D1 at Boston College. So I've seen some of her games and like I'll watch some of that on TV, and like the USA versus Canada games are always entertaining for women's.
But most of your watching is just men's hockey.
Yeah, usually just like the NHL.
Do you think that women's hockey is talked about nearly as much as male hockey?
I don't think it is as much. I would say that it's becoming more popular and talked about more, but probably not nearly as much as men's.
I know this question might be tricky because everyone has a different mindset and view, but do you think that hockey should be a sport playable across genders, or should it be a male's league and a women's league?
Like are you saying men like versus women in the same league?
Yeah, do you think that they can play in one league together, or is it beneficial for both parties?
I don't think they can. I mean, when you have like a 6'6", 250-pound enforcer like going after like a 5'6", 130-pound girl, it just is like unsafe and could like lead to injuries and stuff.
All right.
But I definitely think that there are plenty of women that are just as skilled as men. I just don't know if it's a physically safe.
Fair enough. And if there was one lesson you learned best from playing hockey, what would you say that is?
To always respect my coaches. Like I've been on plenty of teams where kids are just like not nice to the coaches and they're disrespectful and don't listen to them. I try to always be coachable and listen to them and respect them and try to fix what they tell me to fix, and always be open to talk and ask them questions and just try to like learn from them instead of trying to plead my case in situations and stuff.
All right. Well, that's all I have for you. So thank you very much for your time. And
Of course.
good luck in the rest of your season.
Thank you.
Another thanks to Jack Ellis for joining us today for our show. I think that a lot of the information he provided us is very helpful going forward. I do agree that sports are becoming more equal and women are starting to become more watched, which is a very good thing for sports. I think that they are starting to get more and more notice, which is very important. And hope you enjoyed our show today. Have a good one.